Porterville is located in the western region of the United States. The West is the largest of the five regions. The West stretches north into the state of Alaska and the Arctic Circle, and south to the state of Hawaii, just above the equator. There are 11 states in the West. 6 of these states are called the Mountain States because they border the Rocky Mountains. The Mountain States include Colorado, Wyoming, Montana, Idaho, Utah, and Nevada. The other 5 states in this region are called the Pacific States because they border the Pacific Ocean. The 5 Pacific states are Alaska, Washington, Oregon, California, and Hawaii. Alaska and Hawaii are the only 2 states in the United States that don't touch any other state. Alaska borders Canada, and the island state of Hawaii is about 2,400 miles off the Pacific coast.
Okay, well, we've got Porterville narrowed down to being in the largest region.
So it's one of those 11 states.
And it's in the state with the most people of any in the country.
I've got it. California.
Ah! But which part? See, some areas of the West are just not suitable for farming. Like mountains.
A wide variety of landforms cover the West, including mountains, hills, and valleys. The western region has the highest and lowest points in the United States. Mount McKinley in Alaska is over 20,000 feet tall. It is the tallest mountain in the United States. And Death Valley in California is the lowest point in the United States. It is 282 feet below sea level. Every state in the West has mountains, taller mountains than those found in other regions. The Rocky Mountains form the largest mountain system in North America. The Rocky Mountains are made up of many smaller mountain ranges. The Front Range is in Colorado and Wyoming. Other Rocky Mountain ranges include the Teton Range in Wyoming and the Brooks Range in Alaska. An imaginary line runs north and south along the highest points of the Rocky Mountains. This imaginary line is called the Continental Divide. The Continental Divide separates the rivers that flow west from the rivers that flow east. The rivers on the west side of the Continental Divide flow west toward the Pacific Ocean. The Columbia and Colorado rivers flow west. Rivers on the east side of the Continental Divide flow east toward the Mississippi River, the Gulf of Mexico, and the Atlantic Ocean. Both the Missouri and the Rio Grande rivers flow east. To the west of the Rocky Mountains and of the Continental Divide is the Cascade Mountain Range. The Cascade Mountain Range is different from other ranges in the West because many of its peaks are volcanoes. Washington's Mount St. Helens and Mount Rainier are both Cascade Range volcanoes. Mount Rainier is the highest peak in the Cascade Mountains. Along the California-Nevada border is another large mountain range, the Sierra Nevada. These huge granite mountains have one of the highest peaks in the United States, Mount Whitney. The Coast Ranges are made up of many smaller ranges that stretch from the ocean side of Southern California all the way up the Pacific coast north to Kodiak, Alaska. Land along areas of the Coast Ranges can experience the unpredictable movement of earthquakes. Many earthquakes happen along areas on the Earth's outer surface called faults, where the Earth's crust breaks and shifts. Some earthquakes are so small that people don't feel them, but large earthquakes can cause serious damage. The power of nature is also demonstrated in another landform in the West, islands. Like some of the Cascade Mountain peaks, the Hawaiian Islands were formed by volcanoes rising from the floor of the Pacific Ocean. While there are only 8 main islands, the state of Hawaii has 132 volcanic islands. Only 2 of these volcanoes still erupt today. These active volcanoes are the Mauna Loa and the Kilauea. They are both located on the largest of the Hawaiian Islands, the Big Island, called Hawaii. One of the largest single landforms in the West is the Central Valley in California. The Central Valley is nestled between the Sierra Nevada mountains and the Coast Ranges and stretches over 450 miles north to south. To drive from the north end of the valley to the south end would take about 7.5 hours. The Central Valley is covered with flat, fertile farmland. This once dry land is now irrigated by waters from the Sacramento and San Joaquin rivers. They flow from Northern California's Sierra Nevada mountains and are transported throughout the Central Valley by canals. The system of canals, called aqueducts, is one of the features that has made California one of the top farming states in the country. Bodies of water play a very important role in providing water for irrigation and drinking. But the largest natural lake in the western region, the Great Salt Lake in Utah, doesn't provide drinking water and cannot be used for irrigation, unlike the bodies of water in the Central Valley.
So Porterville is in the Central Valley of California.
That's right, Marquis. They produce a lot of fruit there, even though the climate is often very dry.